What's up, buddy?
Oh, dude, not a whole heck of a lot. Just, football season starting, which means fantasy season is starting, which means we get to podcast together for the first time in like an official capacity,
I mean, we've done some stuff where we guested on each other's pods. This was inevitable, right?
At a certain point, the universe was going to align those stars so that way we could actually have a real show together. Because, dude, at this point, I mean, we've both been doing this for about, 5 or so years now. And it's the one person I talk to every day for the most part is you.
Right.
So,
right. And the thing I've thought about a lot leading up to this show, we've been planning this for what? We're probably in like the 4-month range of having planned this show. We talk a lot of football, and I feel like the world needs to hear our conversations, Herms. Like, we do some good work. We work through some good things when we have these deep conversations. So that's what we're going to do. You guys just get to hear what our brains do on a daily basis when we are chatting, talking, video conferencing, texting, whatever the hell we're doing. Are we being profane on this show? It's late night.
It is late night. I don't know. I'm really trying to be better at not saying the F word on things.
Same.
So I'm gonna keep myself to that. But anything else?
All right.
We'll see.
Well, before we get into it, let's hit up the chat here because we've got some excited people. We've got Toronto Dave. He stays ready. We know he stays ready. Toronto Dave is one of the OGs for both of us in this industry. Dave was kicking around when I had like 15 followers. So I'm always thankful, Dave. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks for showing up. The Fantasy Cat, Mr. Scampers, buddy. Missed you in Canton this year. Really sad you guys couldn't make it. You and Dame, you guys are amazing.
2025, do it.
You're going to do it. We've got Albert Mariquin dropping in the chat. He says, hello, everyone. Thank you guys for tuning in. Oh, my God. Dude, look who it is.
Mike.
It's Dirty Mike. What up,
though?
Mike Valeri?
Mike Valerie, dude.
We shared a house with this dude in Mobile for the Senior Bowl. Good guy. College football savant at FF_Dirty Mike. Make sure you're following him on Twitter. Mr. Scamper says next year for sure.
Yes.
Thank God. You guys have got to come out. You and Dame, who is obviously your better half, as we all know, much like my other better half is Jen. And Mike wants to make grilled cheese later. Dude, I'm hungry. I had a French bread pizza for dinner.
There you go.
What kind of cheese are we talking though, dude? You're a baker. But I want to know what your grilled cheese game is, Mike. Like, are we talking, is this like a 5 cheese? Are we tossing some bacon, some grilled tomatoes in there? I don't know. I want to know.
I like to slide in one piece of pepper jack just so that way there's like a little bit of a kick to the grilled cheese. That's the Herms secret move.
Yeah. So we're going to get into football here in a minute, but how I gained 45 pounds between the end of my senior year of high school and the beginning of my freshman year of college was this. 2 hot dogs cut in half on a flat top with onions, tomatoes, sourdough toasted on the flat top. Put it all together, grill it in the salamander, melt like 5 slices of provolone over that hot dog, onion, and tomato, and just go to town. I'd have 2 of those a day.
I love that, honestly.
That's an easy 3 pounds of gain a day.
Oh, 1,000%. Yeah. I mean, like deeply unhealthy in many ways, but also something that I want to have right now.
I mean, if I did that now, I'd have a heart attack.
Oh,
I was 18. That was 24 years ago. Speaking of 24 years ago, let's get into the show a little bit here. We're going to start with the Dallas Cowboys running back situation because, Herms, this is a weird situation. I don't know what to think about this. You've got Rico Dowdle, who, according to some people at The Athletic, is the consensus RB1 in that room. But we've also got Ezekiel Elliott, who 25 years ago entered the league, it feels like. Deuce Vaughn, who is the same size as Muggsy Bogues. And Dalvin Cook, I mean, really with the Jets last year, he looked cooked, right? And we'll get into that here in a minute. But I want to get into these comments here, and we're going to get a little bit more specific about it. It was John Machada of The Athletic said that Rico Dowdle is still expected to be the RB1 in Dallas. There's been a lot of hype for Rico Dowdle in the fantasy community and the NFL analysis community on both sides of it. Do we really believe this, though? I mean, look at this room, Herms. We've got Ezekiel Elliott, Dalvin Cook. These are guys who have been RB1s in the NFL. Is Rico Dowdle really going to take precedence over these guys, even though, I mean, they're up there in age?
Yeah.
As far as running backs go.
And it's funny, I was talking earlier to somebody about Zeke, and I was like, yeah, he's ancient, but then I remembered that we're the same age, so I can't really be like, it's crazy to think about, like, yeah, like those guys that came in and like really kind of revolutionized running back in fantasy, that 2017 class or so, like in that time period, yeah, they're all they're all my age.
Right.
It feels weird, but to kind of tie it back, obviously, like they're still good for the most, but maybe not Cook, but like Zeke, honestly, at times in New England last year when he was doing a lot of that second fiddle work with Ramondre Stevenson, he wasn't bad, and he was still able to handle a lot of touches, especially in that stretch of time that Stevenson missed time with injury last year. So like Zeke, nobody loves him more than Jerry Jones.
Right.
Like, there's just something about him. Yeah, like him going back, like whether or not I believe he's good kind of feels irrelevant because for him specifically, because it's like he's Zeke, the Cowboys love him and he loves the Cowboys. So like that alone kind of leads me to believe that like Zeke is still going to be that dude. But like after that, yeah, that's where Rico Dowdle comes, a little bit more interesting. Like he was okay in stretches last year, not super impressive. But then again, neither was Tony Pollard. the whole run game for the Cowboys just was not working in 2023. So like the bar to clear is super low. And I really think it's only going to be those two for the most part. Like I haven't really heard anything about Deuce Vaughn. The fact that he ran as much as he did in the preseason kind of shows you, hey, this guy's not going to have a regular spot in any sort of rotation.
Deuce Vaughn feels like a guy who it's like he's enough to keep on the 53-man roster because there are situations in which he makes sense. He's a gadget guy. He's a special teams guy.
Yeah, he can return the ball. Yeah.
He's never going to do enough to be fantasy relevant. NFL wise, guy's a stud on special teams. He does all the little dirty things that you want to see. So now I want to go to. Is Dalvin Cook cooked? But I want to bring this conversation around in a different way that I wasn't expecting based on our previous chatter here. So when we're talking about these older running backs just being done, they fall off a cliff. And I think this goes for every other position as well. I think it's less that their skill set has declined, and it's more that the endurance has declined, right? Because Zeke can do it for 5 to 7 carries a game. He just can't do it for 20 a game. And is that the same with Dalvin Cook, where it's like he can do things in spurts, and for real football on a real football roster, adding a guy like Dalvin Cook makes sense for depth. From a fantasy perspective, he's not rosterable at this point.
Or probably really at any point, we know why he's there.
He was 3 years ago.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no. And like, there's a reason he's there. I'm glad he's there. He definitely serves some sort of like veteran purpose that they really needed in that room for sure. But like, dude, yeah, like, and kind of what you were saying, like, I think about the fact that like, I'm somebody who, I think I have pretty good balance. Like I don't fall very easily or whatever, but like, I do a handstand on my head anymore because just certain things physically or whatever. Like I'm not like super old, but I'm pushing the 30s, like there's certain things I can't do, and I'm not even a professional athlete, you know what I mean? So like your point about maybe being more about endurance is also just like, I imagine like you've sustained so many hits over time that
and that's kind of what I'm saying.
Slower afterwards,
Yes, and that's what I'm saying. Like at a certain point, like I'm 42. And I was very athletic in my youth. I played competitive hardball baseball up until I was 30. My body feels it. I can't squat like normal people can because my right knee locks up so hard that to get up, I have to actually lay down on my stomach and basically push myself up with the straight knee if I stay down too long. That's part of getting older. But you know what, though? I can squat if you need me to do it for like 10 to 15 seconds. I just don't have the endurance left. And I think that applies to some of these guys where, like, Jerry Rice played into his 40s. But was he relevant from a fantasy perspective from age 36 on? Not really. He still contributed in a meaningful way to an NFL offense. I think his managers, fantasy managers and fantasy participants and DFS players and bettors, we need to understand that these guys are going to continue to be relevant within the league, but they're just not going to be fantasy relevant. And that's okay. Dalvin Cook's not going to steal any meaningful work from Rico Dowdle, who no one has rostered as an RB1, and no one will roster as an RB1. No one is going to think that he's going to be an RB1. At best, what are you starting Rico Dowdle as in fantasy? If you have him rostered week 1, flex?
Well, dude, I mean, against the Cleveland run defense, probably not going to really want to start any of the Dallas Cowboys running backs. You know, like, I think, honestly, you're best served using this week to just observe, you know, the snap counts and the touch distribution and try to get an idea of what this backfield is going to look like for when they end up facing an easier defensive front. So, like, it's more of a research week for the Dallas backfield than it is a fantasy week for me. That's kind of how I'm playing it.
Dude, I kind of feel we know CD Lamb, we know Dak Prescott. What the hell is the rest of this Dallas offense? I don't like any of it for fantasy. Do they even have a wide receiver too who's worth rostering? I haven't seen one.
No. I mean, for as much as I love Brandon Cooks for like the lifetime achievement that he's put together in his career, you know, like of course, but like,
and he had his time where he was, Cooks is cooked.
If
like, anybody's cooked, it's Cooks.
Perhaps not as bad as Dalvin, but you know, but it toss up. We'll see. But then after that, like, Jake Ferguson's interesting. I mean, it's also a really tough matchup because I think I was researching.
Well, Ferguson was what, tight end 10 last year?
And he really had a spot. He had a stretch in the middle of the season where he became super useful for managers, but I think then he kind of crapped out in the playoffs. But like I think about him as maybe potentially interesting, but generally, like, they also, I don't know. There's no depth for those pass catchers outside of CD Lamb, like, at all. But they always find a way to make it work.
So, now hold on a second here. This is their depth chart at wide receiver, and this is per sleeper.app. We've got their wide receiver 1 is listed as Brandon Cooks.
Sure.
CD Lamb is listed as their wide receiver 3 behind Jalen Brooks. But for context here, Ryan Flournoy, buddy.
Let's go.
Senior
Bowl
Ryan
favorite.
Flournoy,
that kid is so nice.
He is so nice. I didn't say a word. You were the one who wanted to talk to him. We were impressed watching him at the Senior Bowl in Mobile. And he couldn't have been kinder. And I want to see. And you know what? I'm going to say it. I feel like this is a situation where maybe Ryan Flournoy becomes the wide receiver 2 in this offense. He's got speed. He's got good hands. He went to a smaller school, probably affected his draft capital. Where was he out of? I don't remember.
I think it was Southeast Missouri State.
Yeah, it was something really tiny. So, look, I kind of want to stop talking about the Cowboys. So we're going to move on to their bitter rival, a team that did something fairly notable today. They signed Trent Williams, baby. They got him back in camp. Now, if you're wondering why a half fantasy, half NFL show gives a shit about an offensive lineman, I don't consider shit a bad word. If you've seen South Park, you know, you can say it anytime. I want to so first of all, Trent Williams is a future Hall of Fame offensive lineman.
1,000%.
I think we can. Left tackle is the most important position for most quarterbacks on the offensive line because most quarterbacks are right-handed. Thus, the left tackle covers their blind side. Trent Williams, very important piece. Brock Purdy's splits with Trent Williams off of the field last year.
Here we go.
And I want to give shout out to Rich Rebar at Lord Reeves on Twitter. Dropped this knowledge for us here. Want to give him credit. Great dude. Fantastic follow. And sage drafter. So with Trent Williams off of the field, 89 dropbacks last season for Purdy, a 44.9% pressure rate, a 6.1% sack rate, a 5.2% interception rate, and a 2.6% touchdown rate. With Williams on the field, 39.8% pressure rate, a 5.4% sack rate, 1.7% interception rate, and a 6.7% touchdown rate.
Yeah, I mean, that
this was
says a lot.
This was a more important signing than Brandon Ayuk.
Oh, dude, like in so many ways, like pretty much
Massively.
most of the ways. I mean, yeah, because like, I don't know, it's ridiculous to describe an entire offensive line based off of one person. But in the case of the San Francisco 49ers and just how like colossally talented Trent Williams is compared to even other, generally highly regarded left tackles in the game, like he's just that much better, like as a DC area native, one of the biggest losses that the Commanders had as a franchise was not keeping him happy
right.
so that he could stay here. So,
right.
Like, yeah, he's absolutely incredible. It opens up so many things. And like the most important thing, it keeps Brock Purdy from making those turnovers, those unforced errors that don't need to happen.
Well, and what this tells me is something I think we all know about Brock Purdy, right? If you want to talk about a system quarterback, Brock Purdy is pretty much the textbook definition of system quarterback. Brock Purdy isn't successful in most NFL offenses. He found a system that works really well for him. And I applaud him for that. And I'm okay with that. And if he has a phenomenal career in San Francisco, I don't care if he goes to the Hall of Fame. He found the right system. I think Tom Brady is very similar. I don't know that he's nearly as successful in another system. Without Bill Belichick and the tutelage of Bill Belichick and what he allowed him in New England, I don't know that he's the same quarterback. So Trent Williams was a must sign. They had to get this done. They got it done. And now, to be clear, Jamarr Chase is not. He showed up to practice today, though.
That is true.
That was late breaking news. Jamarr Chase shows up to practice. Now, there's still a lot of questions as to whether is he going to play because it's Wednesday. We're a handful of days away from Sunday. I think he still plays. What do you think?
I mean, the only thing that really changed for the Bengals this offseason is the fact that, like, offensive coordinator Brian Callahan is now coaching the Tennessee Titans. So, I mean, like, other than that, I imagine, like, look, Zach Taylor's still around, head coach. Like, he's probably going to run a pretty similar version of that offense anyway. So there's nothing really that he missed out on. It's not like he's, playing with a new quarterback or anything. Like, his ability to kind of just waltz back in and do whatever. Like, like, he can do that. CeeDee Lamb, that was something people were also worried about for a while before he ultimately signed his extension. But that was another instance where I'm like, if nothing's really that different and they've been around and the people they're working with are the same, then like whatever. I really only worry about holdout stuff if it's like, hey, like you weren't around to work with our new quarterback, or like, hey, like you haven't worked with our new offensive coordinator or something, you know what I mean? Like at that point, those valuable repetitions are hard to make up for in time. But like, yeah, if everything's consistent, like do your thing, dude.
Right. I was listening to Freddie and Harry on ESPN radio this afternoon as I was running some errands, picking the kid up from school. He's tired of listening to ESPN radio, but he's going to have to deal with it. But they said something really interesting, specifically to this point, which was kind of what made me want to talk about this was with guys like Jamarr Chase, this isn't a normal talent. This isn't a normal skill set. This is an elite generational type of skill set. These people don't come around every day. And because of that, he's someone like a Michael Jordan who can step on the field and he's right back in it. Well, because one, he's that good. But two, these kinds of people work all off season. He knows what he has to maintain. He knows the level that he has to continue to perform at, even when he's not performing. You can't let yourself go for 3 months and then get back into playing shape. I mean, not everybody is David Wells.
Yeah, well, that like him and like John Daly, it's just two of the most impossible people in the world. I don't understand how they do the things they do, but like also like I'd also like to point out that like maybe people like forgot about this a little bit just because Jamarr Chase has been in the league for a while. We're used to him, as a professional. But one of the things about him coming into the league is that he skipped his final college season. Like. He was just like, I'm already going to get picked high. I don't need to be doing this. Whatever. It's fine. Like, the dude missed a whole year of playing college and then just waltzed into the NFL and was awesome. So it's like, like if he can do that, then like an off season, whatever, like workouts, all that stuff. Yeah, he'll be fine, dude. He'll be fine.
Yeah, he'll be fine. I want to pop into the chat here real quick. We've got Vince Mapstone, homeboy from down under in Australia. Mike Brown is a dickhead. This was also something that Freddie and Harry touched on. They had a caller touch on it as well. Old Bag of Bones needs to disappear yesterday. Stop ruining my stripy cats. Look, dude, Mike Brown has a history of not wanting to pay players who aren't quarterbacks. It's why Joe Mixon moved on, which is fine. And a lot of times that works out. But when you have generational players like Jamarr Chase, who is going to be a perennial top 5 wide receiver every year he's in the league until he's like 40, you pay the guy.
There's nothing else.
Right? Yeah. And to Vince's point here, would another team pay him what he's asking? Absolutely. So you do it. They're going to do it. And that's, I think, as a fan base, that's got to be one of the more frustrating things. When you know your team's going to pay this guy, why are you running him through the ringer? You're just creating ill will, and you're creating you're creating anger and animosity that's going to linger.
It's weird. I don't get it. It happens in not just football, but like so many other sports. Like I could go on a 20-minute rant about my beloved Washington Nationals in terms of baseball and how they've done that to a lot of players. But this is a football show, so I won't. But like anybody who roots for, I want to very badly. But like anybody who roots for franchises that do stuff like that, I mean, like we all know how that feels. It's never fun. It's stupid.
Dude, I'm a Rockies fan.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, you and I, we have a special understanding of this with the Rockies. The Nuggets for years were like that too. You've had the Caps that were like that for a long time. The Nats, the Command. Like, you've got a history of that. Now I want to move on to, this is a perfect transition. Let's move to some players who don't have a history. Let's do some week 1 rookie outlooks. This has been a very interesting rookie class, and I want to start with quarterbacks. And I'm just going to throw this out there. I saw somebody say that they're upset that Michael Penix didn't get the nod to start in week 1 this season. And I would just like to know, why are you such a big Washington Huskies fan, and maybe just stick to college football? It was another analyst. I'm not going to say names, but
Kirk Cousins is the man.
Kirk Cousins is the man. Let him cook. Right? Dude, you paid the man a lot of freaking money.
You don't just give him that much money to sit down. Like, what?
I had a long period of time. In fact, my bio on the In Between Media website said known Kirk Cousins hater. I've changed my tune. The dude just wins. Yes. He just wins. He wins. He competes. And no matter what he does, he is always a top 10 quarterback. And top so 10 in our hearts.
He's so professional.
Yeah, Mr. Jamie Parag, tune it in. What is up, my dude? Good to see you, man. These rookie quarterbacks. I'm most excited about Jayden Daniels. This week. Yeah. But I'm also, and I think with all of these rookies, and we're going to start off with this here. And we talked about this last night, I have a little bit of trepidation about their week 1 performances. It doesn't ding my overall view of them this season. I think a lot of these guys have the ability to be very impactful for real NFL and for fantasy football. But week one's a different story, man. This is their first time in the league. Not everyone's Justin Jefferson, right? Not everyone can go out and have 180 yards in their first game. Let's go through these quarterbacks first. I think Jayden Daniels, they've got Tampa Bay, going to Tampa Bay on the road. I feel like Jayden Daniels probably is the best quarterback out of this group in week one, just because of matchups. Tennessee always has a good defense. You've got Caleb Williams going up against Tennessee in his first game. You've got Brock Bowers up against Seattle. He could challenge Jayden Daniels. He got the captainship in Colorado, was voted on by the team. Who do you think, who has the best performance? We'll go two categories here. Who has the best real NFL performance? Who has the best fantasy performance out of the rookie quarterbacks this week?
Oh, geez. I mean, the best real life, I'm going to probably go with Caleb Williams. I mean, like, the Titans defense is definitely tough. And, but dude, most underrated move of the offseason, I feel like, just what was it, like a third and like some sort of late pick they sent to the Chiefs to get L'Jarius Sneed, dude? Like, just bringing in a shutdown corner like that. Because, like, the Titans secondary, like, still very young. They have those young, like Caleb Farley that they recently drafted and all that. Yep. But, like, bringing in a dude like L'Jarius Sneed to just, like, really, shut down one part of the field and just, like, take a receiver out, make things easier for everybody else, like, very underrated. But, like, I just don't know how much, like, pressure they're going to be able to apply to Caleb. Like, I think the Bears' offensive line has gotten a little bit better, and also he just has that improviser kind of Mahomes type thing.
Yeah.
About him. Like, I just feel like it'll work. I don't know. So, like, he's probably going to do the best real life, but, like, fantasy-wise, dude, Jayden Daniels he runs so much and so effectively that I think he's probably going to finish as a QB1 this week and make me look bad, because I ranked him outside my top 12 for the same reason you were talking about. Like, somebody's first game, like, like, give it a minute. Like, I'm not going to bet on somebody in their debut per se.
I mean, we compared rankings earlier in the week.
Yeah.
And I think we were pretty similar on Jayden Daniels. I'm pulling mine up. I'm pulling mine up right now. I don't know why I didn't already have them up. That was pretty dumb of me. Quarterback.
I'm going to pull mine up. That's a good idea.
I've got Jayden Daniels at QB 14. So
look at us.
Yeah,
boom.
QB 14.
Love that for us.
But I mean, realistically, could I see him finishing the week as QB 8, 9, 10? I could.
No, totally, dude. Like, and
he might have the best arm of this rookie class too.
It's possible. I mean,
Caleb. Look, dude, I have an unreasonable hard-on for LSU players. I have since the first place I lived when I moved out of my parents' house was with a bunch of LSU frat boy grads. We watched LSU football every Saturday for 2 years. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah, fair enough.
So I mean, we'll see.
Oh, that would have been around the Saban times, wouldn't it?
No, that was 2002.
What was Saban? I'll look that up later.
Saban was more Les Miles. That was closer to the Les Miles era.
Got you.
Yeah. We're gonna move on to wide receivers. Which ones show up big this week? We've got Rome Odunze with the aforementioned Caleb Williams against Tennessee. We've got Malik Nabers, who's going up against that Minnesota secondary. Marvin Harrison Jr., who is up against the Buffalo Bills secondary, which DeMar Hamlin is starting at safety.
So cool, dude.
First start since the incident. We've got Jaylen, Polk, and Javon Baker in New England. Let's be real. Jaylen Polk's the only one who's relevant out of that. We've got Keon Coleman, Buffalo against the Cardinals. Xavier Worthy in Kansas City against Baltimore on Thursday night. And Brian Thomas Jr. of the Jacksonville Jaguars against the Miami Dolphins. Who balls out, man? Who is it? Who's wide receiver one in this rookie class in week one?
The safe answer is probably Marvin Harrison Jr., just because he's like that far above in terms of talent relative to the rest of his team. And I mean that as absolutely no offense to Trey McBride, because Trey McBride's awesome. It's just that Marvin Harrison Jr. is like that level of dude. But my underrated pick, if I had to go, kind of, because I don't want to be chalk for everything.
Sure.
Xavier Worthy, and the fact that the Chiefs have low-key built this like track team type offense, because we praise the Miami Dolphins for having the amount of speed that they have all the time. And then we look now, Xavier Worthy, like his 40 time, I'm pretty sure it was like 4.2 something, like ridiculous. Absolutely fast. By far the fastest. Yeah, the fastest at the combine and all that. Rasheed Rice is also a fairly fast dude. And then Isaiah Pacheco, also somebody who I'm pretty sure ran a sub 4.4. So like they have really kind of recaptured that kind of essence that they had once upon a time in the early years of Mahomes. And I think that like that is something that could be really interesting, especially because we were talking about L'Jarius Sneed before, the team he's no longer on. Right. He's gone from the Chiefs. Like Trent McDuffie going to have to step up, be cornerback one, probably focus a lot of his attention on Zay Flowers. And wait, that actually has nothing to do with it because they're on the same team. Whatever. It's late at night and I got confused. But still, I really it's fine. I think, Xavier Worthy, just with that speed and the fact that like opening night also just kind of has its own special charm. I'm low-key just kind of buying into that a little bit as well. But like, dude, just give me all that.
So I think mine is probably going to be, I think Roma Dunze. I don't know why. I just have this stupid feeling. I think he has like a multiple touchdown debut.
Yeah.
I don't know. Marvin Harrison Jr. is too easy of a choice.
It's so chalk, but it's chalk for a reason.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair. That's fair. It is. Yeah. I don't know, man. All right. So I want to get into the chat here real quick. We have got a couple. Well, we've got one big one here. We've got Buy Money over there on Twitch. Thanks for tuning in, buddy. Make sure you subscribe. We need those subscribers. And we'll keep answering your questions like crazy, man. He's got Hurts, Bijan Robinson, Derrick Henry, Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams, DK Metcalf, and Sam Laporta. He wants to know, Herms, did I cook, fellas? I am going to say you absolutely
Michelin star.
Michelin star. How many, though? 2? I said 2 Michelin star.
That's a 2. Definitely a 2.
That's a 2. I don't know where I'd upgrade this. I don't know where I'd upgrade this, though. Honestly, this might be a 3 Michelin star, like chef's kiss.
The only reason I'm being nitpicky just because I feel like if we're going to give somebody a 3-star someday, we have to make sure that it's special. No disrespect to this team. Offense. Yeah, but like we can't rate the first team that we ever rate as a podcast 3-star. That's my logic. The bar has to be set appropriately somewhere.
So he just tossed in. I could have had Chase instead of Wilson.
That's why
actually that might have got you the 3rd star, Buy Money.
Yeah.
Though I'm gonna say now I've seen some people say that they think Garrett Wilson is going to be the wide receiver 1. And it was actually someone who you and I had a discussion about this. And I want to be very clear for anyone who is watching. I do not put thousands of dollars into league dues because I have a family and a kid and I responsibly can't do it. Do I think my return? Do I think my return's going to be greater than what I put in? Absolutely. I know how good I am. I've been playing this since 1992. However, there's so much chance in that I don't do it. So if you are one of those people who thinks that if you don't play high stakes, thousands of dollars on the line, you don't know what you're doing in fantasy football, go ahead and tune out of our show. I don't really care for that mentality. I know what I'm talking about, man. I am a football nerd. We employ football nerds. We employ people who know way more about football than most people should reasonably know. So just wanted to throw that out there. But also Garrett Wilson, while I do not think he is going to be the overall wide receiver 1, he will be a wide receiver 1. He'll be a top 12 wide receiver. I can't see any way around it. I wanted to throw out here Jamie Prague saying I put Rice in my top 15 wide receivers this week. Is that too high?
Let's see where
I mean, it's all subjective, right?
I have Rice 18, dude. Like, that's fine. You know, like he's going to get fed a ton. I mean, that is the purpose of his role running slot routes in that offense. So
you're not gonna. I have Rashee Rice back at wide receiver 30.
Woof, bro. I mean, hey, well, okay. So let me ask you this then: does that have anything to do with the fact that we might get a Taylor Swift appearance? Are you thinking maybe like, you know, bringing that vibe, bringing that energy for Travis? Maybe that's going to be because like that's honestly like I know that I'm supposed to care about football more than anything else, considering that I get paid to know things about football.
Right.
I want to know if Taylor Swift's coming. I want to know if she's going to be in attendance.
Dude, like, it's the season opener. She has to be there, especially with all these rumors going around about some like dating contract. With a relationship end date, which it was proved to be
that
false.
Was a hoax. Yeah.
It's a hoax. Reddit proved it. Shout out Reddit.
Always.
Real quick, just while we're in between subjects here, I want to promote what we've got going on the fantasy football subreddit, r/fantasy football, all one word. 2.8 million members strong, guys. Every Sunday from 11. I had to do the math here at my Mountain Standard brain. Yes, from 11:30 Eastern until the start of the games on Sunday, we will be on the Reddit subreddit, Fantasy Football, answering your start-sit questions with our team. Come check us out. We've got you covered, guys. We're very, very excited to be there. It's just cool. It's a good group to be a part of, guys. Make sure you go check out that subreddit. Fantastic advice. Great homies on there. We've got the Andrew Cooper, the Matthew Berries are on there, the Phil Yates, the Daniel Dobbs, like all of the absolutely phenomenal fantasy people. You need to get over there. Now, here's one of my favorite things I wanted to talk about tonight, because I'm a nerd and I love Ray Davis. Well, you and I kind of like mutually fell in love with Ray Davis in Mobile. Dude's just a workhorse. So for week 1, running backs we care about, Ray Davis and?
Beyond him? I mean, I don't know.
There are guys I'm excited about this season.
I'll be interested. I think this is a good one. I think you're definitely going to agree with me on this. And also shout out to homie John Arrington, Dynasty Coach. Hey, I know you're going to like this one too. I'm excited to see if we see Kamani Vidal on the field or not. Even if we will, like a couple like touches, dude. Like I want to if we just see him at all, if he's out there for any small meaningful amount of time, that's a dub for week 1 for him. Where he's at third on that depth chart for the Chargers, that I think that would be a dub. It's like the bar for caring is pretty low on that one for fantasy purposes, I suppose. But like, dude. I really believe that at some point he's going to find himself into relevance.
I think so too. I hope so. So you started talking about Kamani Vidal, and it made me think of Amani Bailey.
Oh,
he did get back on the Chiefs practice squad, even though he was released by the Chiefs in the big cut down to 53. On the practice squad, guys, watch out for Amani Bailey. Someday, my sweet prince might be an RB6. Just
really. Actually, wait, he doesn't count, but because we're talking about the Chiefs, Carson Steele technically on the roster as a fullback.
Yeah,
I low key kind of believe. Like, I think we're going to talk more about the Chiefs later. So, I mean, I'm not going to get into it now, but just foreshadowing for the audience. Like, that's – I've got a guy I'm really hyped about these days.
All right, so last thing with rookies here. Brock Bowers, week 1. Does Bowers shine? Does he end up getting overshadowed by Devontae Adams, Mike Mayer, Jacoby Myers, Zamir White, Alexander Madison, Gardner Minshew?
No, I mean – Mike Mayer is only going to be in there to block, first of all. Like, that's not really a huge concern for me. Jacoby Myers is the kind of the big threat, at least in terms of him finding consistent target work, because like obviously Davante Adams is going to get his, it's going to be ridiculous. And then whoever ends up being the pass catching complement in the backfield is also going to get some of their work as well. But like Brock Bowers is just different, dude. He's out there he's like a video game type player. He is so effective in so many different ways. And I was having a conversation with him at my home league draft just over the weekend and talking about all the different things he did. And one of the things that I pointed out to my home league commish that he didn't know was just how many rushing touchdowns Brock Bowers had in college and how consistently they would, just use him in those jet sweeps and all those different reverses and everything. Like, he's so versatile. You have to get the ball in his hands as much as you can.
Sure.
If you really want to have this offense take a step forward and keep Davante Adams happy. I recently just finished watching Wide Receiver on Netflix.
We started it. We haven't gotten close to finishing it, but
I won't say anything else, but it's not a spoiler because it's about last year and you know what happened last year. He talks a little bit kind of about how he's feeling about the Raiders and stuff. And it's really interesting. And I thought it was very telling, not in a way that should raise like super, crazy alarms or anything, but like just enough to, kind of say to me, like, of course they're going to give it to Bowers. They have to.
Mark Davis is still there though, right?
I mean, yeah, him and his goofy ass haircut.
Yeah, his PF Chang's lunch every single day. I want to pop back into the chat here real quick. We have got a question here from Albert Mariquin. He wants to know Ayuk or Dell this week in full PPR. I'm going to start this out. This is really easy for me. It is Tank Dell.
Ooh, we're going to disagree on that one there, buddy.
All right.
I'm so sorry.
Let's hear it. I want to know why, though.
Because I'm unsure of how much 11 personnel that the Texans offense is going to run, which means that one of Tank Dell or Stephon Diggs is going to have to come off the field in those two receiver sets, man.
Why can't it be Nico Collins?
And run Diggs and Dell out there? I mean, I don't know.
Why not?
It's possible.
Dude,
it's feasible.
Here's the thing.
But
I hear what you're saying, but here's what I keep going back to. Dude, C.J. Stroud won't stop talking about how much he loves Tank Dell.
No.
And he's the quarterback. So for me, sure, you want it to be Nico Collins, and they brought in Stephon Diggs, but C.J. Stroud wants to get the ball to Tank Dell. He is the quarterback. Ultimately, when the ball is snapped, it is up to C.J. Stroud who he is targeting first, who he's looking for. My gut tells me it's going to be Tank Dell every freaking time.
So I would put it this way then. What you're really choosing between is risk tolerance. The risk of Tank Dell's role versus the risk of Ayuk probably going up against Sauce Gardner a lot. Like that is I get why you're having to choose between these two, and whichever situation makes you feel more comfortable, because both are kind of concerning. That would probably be what Jamie knows. See, hey, he got that before I even said it. That's why the chat is undefeated. But yeah, dude, that's really what it comes down to for me.
I get it. I just want to shout out to Mr. Coupe Fiasco, Mr. Fantasy Alarm himself, the Amani Code. Indeed. Now, this is an interesting statement from Vince here. Will be interesting to see how much run Jalen Wright gets, if any. Mike McDaniel is Kyle Shanahan, is Mike Shanahan, is Sean McVay. So it could be a day where he gets 150 yards on 20 carries. He could see 2 carries and get -7 yards. No way to know. Ayuk facing Sauce Gardner. TD saying Nate might be one of the few people higher on Tank Dell than me. Well, it's because Dell's a bucket getter. That's why. I can't help myself. I like bucket getters.
Yeah, like I do not want to besmirch his name. He's good. I'm just a little skeptical. I'm a little worried. That's all. I
get it. Now we're going to move on to some older, more seasoned bucket getters. There were a lot of moves this offseason. A lot of players changing teams. Guys that we've seen play for the same team, maybe thought they'd never leave. One of those, the king of the DMV, the one and only Derrick Henry, now in Baltimore. I don't know that there's a lot to talk about around this except this. Is Derrick Henry a candidate to be overall PPR RB1 yet again this season, even though he's going to be 34 and he's in a new city.
I mean, like RB1 overall, probably not, but like we don't need him to return on the value because like I really thought the change of scenery and going to that offense was going to boost his ADP a little bit higher. But I think one of the really big overarching themes that we're seeing in fantasy football in general over the past couple of years is just a lot of like dynasty and, kind of best ball theory permeating into each other. So there's just this mono strategy of all like formats. So the fact that Derrick Henry is so, quote unquote old, even though he's only a year older than I am,
right?
Also something I just remembered recently. I think that probably suppressed the, ADP a little bit, but I want to call back to what we were talking about earlier with the whole concept of some of these dudes just wearing down a little bit and how that leaves room for other players within their backfields to maybe.
Oh, here comes Justice Hill.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, but you're right.
It's a role that is important. And like Derrick Henry can't really be out there for that change of pace type stuff at this point because it's undue harm onto his body in a spot where like he's reserved to be your thumper and kind of barreling through gaps, not out here doing fancy other crap.
It's like asking my old ass to get on the roof, save me for cooking dinner.
Exactly.
I'm not a roof guy. I'm a dinner guy. Somebody else to do the roof shit.
Yeah, there are roles in these backfields for a reason.
Don't make Derrick Henry do the roof shit.
Exactly. So, like, when you have a guy like Justice Hill and the fact that, like, look, Keaton Mitchell tore his ACL super late last year. I have no idea when we're going to see him.
He won't be back this year.
Yeah,
there's no reason to bring him back. Let him heal.
Yeah, and the only other threat on that roster, now, granted, it's a player that I really liked as a college prospect, Rasheen Ali out of Marshall.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I don't think he's really going to be able to step in right away and challenge somebody like Justice Hill. So it's like, I think Derrick Henry is going to finish as an RB1, not the, but definitely an RB1. And I think Justice Hill could end up being like a flex dude more
like
often
back
than
into RB3.
Yeah,
I can
not
see that.
not every week,
but like situationally, sure.
Yeah.
No, I'm with you. Now let's move on to Derrick Henry's old team, the Tennessee Titans. There was kind of a massive overhaul there. They brought in Tony Pollard, they brought in Calvin Ridley, they brought in Tyler Boyd. We've got Will Levis, who is now starting at quarterback. What do you think? What do you think of this offense? Because I struggle with it. Because with the receiving core, I'm really just not interested. I'm slightly interested in seeing what Tyler Boyd can do with DeAndre Hopkins dinged up. Maybe he'll see slightly more volume, but he's still the wide receiver 3 in a Will Levis-led offense that I just don't know that they're going to throw the ball that much.
They're going to have to, and that's the really unfortunate thing because, like, it's going to get Will Levis murdered. The offensive line, for as much as they've been trying to add to it, like, Skoronski last year was a really good pick, and then they took J.C. Latham, if I remember correctly. They're building it up, brick by brick as fast as they can. But, as a Steelers fan who recently – I'm still undergoing watching an offensive line being rebuilt. It's not something you could just do rapidly. Right. So, they're probably not going to be able to run a lot in that case. And then that also, the amount of garbage time that, Will Levis is going to end up throwing 40, 45 times a game type stuff is it's going to be born out of necessity. I don't think they want to do it, but I think it's going to happen like that regardless. But, I also just don't think he's good. I think he makes a lot of bad choices, and that's why I don't feel comfortable with any of the options for fantasy.
Jay Cutler much, but with less arm talent and slightly worse. Ooh.
A little less arm talent, a little more mayonnaise,
little poorer decision making, which is saying something. Lifelong Broncos fan who had to watch Jay Cutler in the early days. We're going to go to Pittsburgh now, who you were just talking about. As you know, I'm a Steelers fan as well. I've got the Steelers cons back here. I've got my Cordell Stewart plate over here. You can't see because of the camera cut off here. I'm not super excited about this team. I like Russell Wilson where he's going in drafts. He's a solid QB2 option in Superflex in 2 QB leagues. So really, here's who I want to talk about. Cordarrelle Patterson.
Ooh, let's go.
I think maybe like 30 people realized that he was a Pittsburgh Steeler until mid last week when we found out that he was going to be their RB1. Yeah. How do you feel about this? How do you feel about this Pittsburgh offense?
I don't know,
from
dude.
a fandom standpoint, from a fantasy standpoint, because from a fandom standpoint, I'm like, can Tomlin keep his above 500 streak going this year with this team, with Arthur Smith as the offensive coordinator? But then also I'm like, well, but it's Mike Tomlin, so they're going to be at least 9-8.
They'll figure it out.
Does Russell Wilson make it through the season as the starter?
No, absolutely not. Dude, like that, I get why they're starting with him because at least in terms of being able to deliver passes, he was the one best at it in some of that limited preseason action that we saw. But at some point, what they're going to realize is that having that kind of old man, kind of babysitter type quarterback that can, just make the offense move along a little bit, not really going to explode that often, but, it can keep it moving, rather pedestrian. And they're going to be like, wait, but we have this kid sitting on the bench that can run faster than like 75% of the defenders on the field. Yeah, he might miss more throws, but he can also turn around and just go boom. Like the overall ceiling of the offense just gets so much higher when you bring in a dynamic guy like that. It's going to happen because the defense is good enough to keep them in contention, maybe for another wild card push, because for some reason they just always find a way to do it. Like, if it comes down to like, we have to do this to keep pushing, then they'll do it. I don't know when that's happening, but I think it might.
Before camps and OTAs started, I kind of assumed we were looking at like a week 6 to week 8 time frame to see Fields.
Like
at this point, though, I feel like either we don't see him this year or we don't see him until week 10 to 12 when it's like very apparent that if the Steelers get into the playoffs, it's going to scrape by and they need some sort of spark to change things. Now, speaking of Arthur Smith, we're going to go to his old place of employment, the Atlanta Falcons. They've got Kirk Cousins, man. They got rid of Arthur Smith. I like him, hate him. And we talked about before the show, I was for a very long time a known Kirk Cousins hater. I've changed my tune. He's an efficient quarterback who does nothing but prop receivers up in fantasy. We've got Drake London. We've got Darnell Mooney. We've got Kyle Pitts, who apparently is hurt. We've got Bijan. And we've got, begrudgingly, Tyler Algier in this offense. Are you as excited about everybody else for the outlook on this Atlanta offense? Guys, like I saw Drake London ranked as a wide receiver 10 season long. Is that realistic?
I'm pretty sure I had him at like 8 or 9. I've definitely bought into it. I mean, as has been discussed many times, living in the greater DC area, the only quarterback I ever saw consistently be good was Kirk Cousins. And the fact that they let him walk out the door is the reason I officially stopped caring about that team forever. So that's my opinion of Kirk Cousins. Like, he really just is that type of dude that will just – the crazy thing about it, though, is that we do have that, kind of OG McVay connection because Zach Robinson being the passing game coordinator, being hired, as part of this new regime. Like, it's Kirk Cousins being able to step into basically another form of the offense he's been running his entire career, because every team that has acquired him has strategically done so to operate in this specific fashion. And that's why I think it's going to work.
I have also got Drake London at wide receiver 10.
Yeah.
So I think we're all kind of on the same page here with Drake London. Let's talk about the NFC North. Not a ton to talk about. We've talked about Caleb Williams. We've talked about the Bears. But we've got Aaron Jones, who is now a Minnesota Viking, a new face on the Minnesota Vikings, and Josh Jacobs, who is now in Green Bay. How do we feel about this? I'm more excited for Aaron Jones in Minnesota because I feel like he's the more timeless back. I'm not as excited about Josh Jacobs, but I think it's because I feel like he took such a massive downturn in the second half of last season. I don't know if there's anything left. Plus, we've got Marshawn Lloyd, who's a guy I think can take over that backfield at some point this season.
I mean, you don't pay Jacobs that much money to leave the door open for something like that. Like, that's kind of my concern, but I don't think that necessarily precludes Marshawn Lloyd from having a role. Like, the whole, like, AJ Dillon's neck injury that put him on season-ending IR, like, first of all, like, bless up.
Very Chris Carson-esque.
And yeah, like, unexpected, kind of last minute, and that just elevates an opportunity for somebody. Like, and it's not as though Aaron Jones, when he was with the Packers last year, got all the touches all the time. Like, I think there's room for both to be relevant, but I'm definitely more excited about Jacobs because I think at the, sort of advanced age that Aaron Jones is dealing with, the Vikings found something a little bit in Ty Chandler toward the end of last year. We only saw it in those certain stretches because I think it was 2 games into him really having the reins, and then he got concussed or something, and then he went back into a secondary role. But he looked like he was able to do something and be productive enough. So I believe that backfield in Minnesota is going to be more of a split 50-50 than the one in Green Bay will.
Yes, I can see that. But my concern being in Minnesota, week 1, they ran the ball 7 times total. They finished the season having thrown the ball on 68% of snaps, or at least run some sort of passing play on 68% of snaps. The last 3 games of the season, they threw the ball on 71% of snaps. What has changed? So Ty Chandler's just not a pass-catching back. He's going to run the ball. He's going to run the ball 7 to 12 times a game. He was averaging roughly 4 yards per carry last season. So, okay. So he runs the ball 7 to 10 times a game. So we're looking at 35 to 40 yards. Reasonably on the ground from a guy like Tyson Chandler.
So he's just Rico Dowdle.
Yeah, he's Rico Dowdle.
Oh, okay.
Versus Aaron Jones, who is the pass catching of the two. In a pass-heavy offense where you're missing TJ Hawkinson for the first 6 to 8 to 10 weeks of the season.
Yeah.
Jordan Addison's on thin ice.
And
why they brought in Aaron Jones? Because it's a pass-catching back for a pass-heavy offense.
Well, especially because Madison sucked at it. It was horrible.
Right. That's why I'm higher on Jones than Jacobs. I foresee more, especially PPR work for Aaron Jones in that offense.
Yeah. In
an offense that just doesn't run the ball. Kevin O'Connell doesn't want to run the ball. And he's not going to run the ball. If they wanted to run the ball, they probably would have kept Dalvin Cook and forced him to just be a between the tackles guy because he can be that guy. They just don't.
Or they probably
didn't want to pay him.
Or they could have been more aggressive.
Pay a running back that you don't use. What's the point?
No, for sure. No, dude. And I also I figured they were going to be more aggressive in this draft class, and the fact that they didn't take anybody that I can remember anyway, that kind of speaks to That's just something I guess I never really readjusted in terms of my context of Aaron Jones. That's good. That's smart. I'm glad.
I see. Now, guys, these are the late night conversations we have that get us to the points where we get to on these shows, and now you get to listen to us. Last team we're going to touch on here, the Kansas City Chiefs. They didn't do a ton, but here's what they did do. They went out and they got Hollywood Brown. Fits into that speedster thing that we were talking about. Now, he's hurt.
Team, baby.
Probably not going to play on Thursday night against Baltimore. But when he does get in, all of a sudden he kind of becomes dangerous, right? But is he's going to be more of a boom bust guy, where when you're playing him, you're praying for two big plays. He's not a volume receiver, especially in Kansas City, where they have plenty of other guys who can do volume. Here's who I care more about: Samaj Piran, a.k.a. Jerick McKinnon Jr. I'm excited about this signing. I was excited about him when he signed in Denver last season. Not going to lie. I thought there was going to be more of a role for him in what turned out to be a putrid offense.
I thought so too, man.
Yeah, I think we all did. I was drafting him higher than I probably should have.
Yeah.
But
also,
now,
shout out the homie Joey Wright. He knows.
No, Joey knows. But now we've got him stepping into this Jerick McKinnon role. In theory, I don't know that this affects Isaiah Pacheco much. Though, if you look at P. Ryan's numbers as just like pure rusher, he has averaged 4.49, 4.15, 4.47, and 4.78 yards per carry in the last 4 seasons in order backwards.
And he never fumbles. It's crazy.
He has been responsible for a total of 5 fumbles in his entire career. He has lost 4 of those 5 fumbles, but that's over. We're heading into his 8th season.
Yeah, I mean, for being around that long, that's not bad, dude. That's not
I
bad.
think Philip Lindsay, who I love dearly, not on the radio as much, but as a player, definitely. That dude didn't lose a fumble for 2 years, and that was impressive as hell. But you talk about you're going into year 8, and you've only lost 4 fumbles your entire career as a running back. And don't forget, he played for the Commanders back in the late teens of this year.
He did.
So now that we've talked about Kansas City, we've got a couple things in the chat I just want to pop into real quick here. We've got Mr. Scamper saying, Tomlin, like life, finds a way. Quote from Dr. Ian Malcolm. We've got Jamie saying, I have the Steelers at 8-9, which is better than the Browns at 6-11. Jamie, I'm going to tell you this. When Deshaun Watson never starts or takes a snap this season, and your quarterback is Jameis Winston, you're going to be happy when you win actually 7 games with Jameis.
Ooh. That's big talk. That's big
and
talk.
Mr. Cooper over here saying, can we get a shout out for the greater Toronto area? I've never been there, but I know people who live there, especially the one and only Toronto Dave. Shout out Toronto. We love you. And then Jamie's got a question here. Can Baker Mayfield finish as a top 10 QB in week 1? Well, he just answered his own question. Yes, he can. Can Mike Evans finish as a top 10 wide receiver in week 1? Yes, he will. Can Rachaad White finish as a top 10 RB in week 1? Of course, 100%. And then he gets even spicier here, and he says, Winston season will win 9 games. Jamie, I don't disagree with you, quite honestly. My outlook for the Browns offense goes from opposite ends of the spectrum, whether it's Watson or Winston at quarterback. I don't believe that Watson had one good season, guys. And one good season. We know what Jameis Winston is. He's a carefree, doesn't give a shit, having fun quarterback.
He's Taco Bell.
He's Taco Bell.
Yeah.
Sometimes he will make you shit your pants. But other times he's going to make you very, very happy.
That's going to hit that spot,
That's right, man. Well, we have come to the end of our little show sheet. This has been a blast, man. We only an hour and 5 minutes. I figured we'd be going into hour 3 by now.
Oh, shit.
But we kept it truncated. So, that's great. I just want to point out some things we've got going on the rest of the week before we get out of here. The flagship show is live tomorrow. I do believe we are going live at 3 p.m. Eastern. I'll have to double check that. I will be joined by the one and only Casey Kasem. It's going to be a blast, guys. We're going to take a look at what is coming up in fantasy football for this weekend. We're going to help you get your lineups right, get set. Then on Friday, myself and Mr. Mike Reedy, DFS Live at 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to give you everything you need for the main slate. Get those plays in and win some money. Please make sure, guys, like and subscribe. That's how we can keep doing this for you. It helps us monetize. It makes us feel good when you're watching and commenting. And then we have the mailbag show on Friday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Get those questions in, please. Team at optimusfantasy.com. DM us on Twitter. Send us a message on Facebook, Instagram, Blue Sky, TikTok. Doesn't matter. Just please, guys.
Carrier pigeon.
Carrier pigeon. That works just fine for me. This has been a blast, man. I really love that we got our first show in. Fantasy football, 365 days a year here on Optimus. I just want to point out real quick here, we've got some great work up on the site right now, and we've got even more coming. Oh, we got both spicy takes for the weekend coming soon. We've got Mr. Kevin Tompkins, who is going to be dropping some week 2 waiver wire, guys. You can get on free agency now and just save yourself some fab. It's going to be great. Casey Kasem coming to the table with wide receiver 2s you should start this weekend because they're going to put up wide receiver 1 numbers. We've got some start sits. And then, of course, check us out on Reddit, guys. We're going to be there on Sunday morning from 11:30 to 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Right before
Get those start sit questions in. It's going to be a madhouse. We'll get to you as soon as we possibly can. Just remember, there's 2.8 million people who are going to be asking us questions. I'm not freaking out.
I'm not freaking out either. Are you freaking out?
Just a little.
I mean, not like a lot, but
it's going to be great. This is what we're built for, right? So what we wanted.
Dude.
Yep. I just want to throw up this last comment from Trent Dave. In Beth we trust.
Facts.
We'll be talking more about that here in the near future.
Mm-hmm.
Buddy, this has been great. I can't wait to do it next week. We're going to have so much more to talk about. We're going to have a whole week of live football under our belts.
Real football.
All right. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to the very first ever Nate and Herms show here on Optimus Fantasy. This has been 4 years in the making. We're stoked to be able to bring you this awesome content. Thanks to everyone who tuned in, everyone who is listening to the audio version of this podcast as well. We're just here to help you win and have fun. That's it. That's all we're going to do. So for Mr. C.H. Herms, I am Nate Polvogt. We're going to get you out of here. We'll see you next week, folks.